as I see from the employee side is it's up to my manager to further my career. It's up to my manager to get me my next role, to understand what I need. And there should be components of that. But really, it needs to be intentional from your side. Where would you like to go? And give them that feedback so they can help guide you.
Hi, and welcome to Lead Well. I have a wonderful guest today, Nicole Fronek. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, so good to see you.
When I opened your brief and I saw the two horses, I was like, I have to talk to this person because I'm a horse enthusiast.
Oh, wonderful. There's a long story behind it, but I can give you the short. It's the Chinese zodiac sign, or my business partner and I were both horses. And we really love the idea of just their power and their performance and the beauty. And we just really were drawn to horses as well. So this logo kind of came with the yin and yang, how we support each other, we have each other's back. And it's just really looks sharp. And a very good artist friend of ours, local in the Black Hills, Daniel James, supported us with the logo design and also the cover for the book.
Wow, wonderful. And what a coincidence, I'm a fire horse.
It's your deer. It's your big deer. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's my business partner, and he is a fire horse. So we were very excited. We're like, this year I want big things out of you. So hey, that's fantastic. Very exciting. I still have a little bit of time yet, but it's nice to have your year. When we're done with this segment of the interview, I'll have to ask you, what's your big fire enthusiasm for the year to cap off your fire horse year?
Yeah, we can talk about that. And then the other thing we have in common, we just learned that you have spent 5 years in Munich, my hometown.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Went for work, which was fantastic. And it was supposed to be a 1-year extravaganza. And then I was fortunate, timing, luck, effort, just intention, found a role with HP. And what was really nice is because I was so willing to try different things. I met so many wonderful people and they kept renewing my contract. So 1 year turned to about 4, and it gave me some really good material for the book as well. I learned quite a lot, but traveling was the main reason that we went, and we traveled a lot, and it was phenomenal. We really missed those days and haven't been back for a while. We're actually planning on going later this year for a holiday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So,
Have to go to the Dollmeyer Cafe. We love it.
oh,
So
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
So you not only have spent time in Munich, but you have spent over 2 decades working with global organizations and Fortune 100 companies, helping people take intentional ownership of their careers, which is wonderful. And you have authored a book, just mention it. The title is Corporate Coach Approach, a practical guide for navigating complexity at work. So this is personal branding, but also stakeholder engagement and decisive action. And what I would love to talk with you today is about what career development really requires in today's corporate environment, because I think that has changed quite a bit and has been changing, and how leaders can move from reacting to taking initiative and really shaping their path. And so when you say having an intentional career, I guess that doesn't happen by chance. What does this look like? What do I need to do when I want to have a career?
And I'll go back to my original statement with HP. It was a bit of luck and timing. I was in the right place at the right time, but it was a 3-month contract. So I was very intentional with extending my contract because my work visa, my tourist visa was contingent on having that role. So I spent a lot of time, how can I learn? How can I grow? How can I add value for this client or my manager? Or how can I make my manager look good? How can I utilize the strengths that I have and bring extra content to the team? So really there is, as I said, a bit of luck, but you really have to be thoughtful about what you're providing and is it adding to the overall objective of the project, of the team, of the account, of the client, whatever the case might be. But you have to be really considerate about your action, your quality of work, your consistency, and then your reliability. They have to know what to expect. from you. And when their expectations are met, then they can have comfort working with you even a little bit more.
Mm. And I think I picked one thing that you just said that was always very important for me as well, is that at the end of the day, I worked for my manager. My goal was to make my manager successful. And I heard you say that
Yeah.
as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And then also too, you never really quite know how those relationships go. Some of my managers even said, "Ooh, what can I do to help you? Because it's very clear you don't need to be managed. You just need somebody to support you." And at one point you might be my manager. So it's really good to have that collaborative relationship. And that can be part of your brand, part of your distinct qualities that you are messaging that you want folks to understand is you. And when you have that integrity built into your brand and your quality of work, people will recognize that and they will feel really good working with you and having you at their side
Mm.
because you want them to succeed. You're not intentionally looking for ways to do the opposite. You want everyone to do well and be in a good light. And if you can be a part of that, it really feels good. And it will only help you along the way with your intentional brand management and your career growth.
And another thing that I've always find really interesting and important is I have quite a few clients, leadership leaders that say, I'm doing such a great work and people will notice over time. And in so many cases, it does not happen because everyone expects them to do great work and everyone accepts that, but they still don't get that visibility. I guess they would need to be on a career path. So what's your advice for those?
Yeah, it is. I hear that often, and it's the point I speak to. If you sit there and do your work and you are polite and you check all the boxes, that's not enough. That's the expectation. You're being paid, you're getting your paycheck. That's that. You really have to look for opportunities to be visible, to highlight your skills, volunteer for different assignments, or ask how you can job shadow, or maybe add another skill set, or get a certification or a training of some sort. You always need to build and get that next trick up your sleeve, if you will, but you can't be stagnant. You really have to stand out and do it appropriately. You have folks that want to be in the spotlight for the wrong reasons, or they're maybe taking the credit where the credit is not due. So you have to be really thoughtful about building it on your merit and your skill and what you can add to the group. But just sitting back and waiting, that I think is good at the beginning when you're observing and you're learning. But once you feel confident and you have enough information to add value and not just talk, then I think that's really when you start shaping your career path with that client, organization, whatever the case might be.
And what are some, because you're saying you're doing it in the right way and at the right time. So what is the right way there? So what is it that I need to be careful about? Because otherwise I can also become a threat to managers, which I've also come across. So what's a smart way of coming about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. No, you're right. The smart way, and from my experience, what I've done is I've looked for different swim lanes, different opportunities, meaning it's not a saturated market or role. I've crafted divisions, roles, titles that aren't already in existence, but I see a need. And then so that way I'm adding to the group, I'm adding to the revenue stream, I'm giving the manager another direct report or something of that nature where I'm adding to their capability or their division, but I'm not imposing on their skill set or their whatever initiatives that they're working on. Or alternatively, you can do health checks with them and say, I'm very interested in what you're working on. Can I support you with that? Or can I learn from it? There's all these questions that you have about interviews, right? And I'll come full circle, but the one I always find interesting is when they say, "Oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And they say, "Oh, in your role." Like, that isn't really going to set a very positive tone. I am here to take your job. Let me show you how to do it better. You really have to be considerate about you're there to support them. You're there to guide them and help them with your experience. They've brought you on because they see something. And more often than not, they're going to help you guide your career into something better and different because they see you as an advocate or an ally. Now, there's going to be times where you've done everything appropriate, good timing, good, what's the word, a moral compass, but there's just going to be folks that you don't have that chemistry or that connection. And there's nothing you've done right or wrong. It's just not a good fit. And at that point, how you asked me, when do I know it's the appropriate time? You can feel, you can get a sense when things are going the direction that you didn't expect or you're not feeling the same, I guess, mutual respect on both sides. Maybe it's just time to look for another opportunity, look for another person to work for or with. You don't need to stay in a place because it's convenient or it's comfortable. And I know in Germany, most folks stay at their role for quite a long time, years, decades. And to your point of things have changed. I don't know if it's still that way today, but I think folks are moving around in roles more than they used to. And so you don't need to stay somewhere just for the sake of saying if you don't think it's a good fit any longer.
I think it has changed. It did change, and then now it has changed again because there is this uncertainty in the market and the fear of not getting a job, because we had a certain period of time where there were more jobs available than actually associates that wanted to take it. And nowadays we have quite a few people who are staying in their role, and they would want to go somewhere else, but they don't have the courage to do so because they fear they will be out of a job. So I think the whole environment has changed pretty significantly over the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, interesting. And when I came over to Germany, I had an interior design degree. And I remember trucking all through the town and I went to every designer in every building I could find. And they said, you have to have this certain criteria. You have to have architecture. You have to have all these things. It was a completely different landscape than the US. And so to just the right luck and timing, there was HP, which was an American company, and they needed somebody who was already there, didn't need to be relocated, spoke English fluently. And I checked all the boxes, but I had to adapt from an interior design to communications. And it was much different, but I was willing to give it a shot. I've never been complacent. I've not had the luxury. I moved a lot when we were children. I moved a lot as an adult. And so I'm always finding ways that I can adapt. And that's really strengthened my skill set. The roles I have today are because I've been through those kind of trial and errors. And I discuss them in the book, in the chapters. Each chapter, there's a few stories, and it kind of shares how I arrived at techniques and things that supported in my career growth. Just from simply saying, hey, I'll give it a shot. I'm not going to be proficient right away, but I'm willing to try. And sometimes that was enough. Just raising your hand and say, I'll give it a go. And it can really open a lot of doors that you weren't expecting.
And it also gives you a great opportunity to learn and expand your horizon.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And it was so funny. There's one story in the book where I talk about my manager had wanted me to write some code in different languages. And he said, do you speak French? And I said, oui. And I didn't, but I had folks that I worked with that did. And so I went and got some cappuccinos and we sat at the table and I gave them my assignment and they translated it for me because this was back when you couldn't go on to AI or have any kind of translators. And I created this really great network. And so then I did this with Italian and I did this with other things. And I met a lot of really great colleagues just from understanding who my SMEs, my subject matter experts were in my network and going and speaking with them and having a coffee, having a conversation. And my manager just thought, what do you know all these languages? And I said, I have sources, I have resources, I have individuals. And he got a kick out of it. So it was a fun exercise. But yeah, I learned a lot. I'm not fluent in either, but I could probably muddle through some text if I found it. But German and English, I'm all set.
Wonderful. That's great. Now, everything that you described sounds like a lot of work to me, or it can sound like a lot of work. So when I want to progress in my career, yes, I have to be really productive. I have to really be engaged. On the other hand, I do need to make sure that I can be productive and successful on the long run. So what is your advice there? How can leaders take care of themselves? And where do they maybe sabotage themselves?
I think when you say yes to everything, and that's a really hard, you have to know what your boundaries are and what your capabilities. And it goes back to your brand too. You don't want to necessarily take on something that you're not going to be exceptional or you're not going to be able to fulfill in a timely manner. Like whatever you commit to, you have to fulfill. And you want to be careful to do that in the time that's needed. Now, sometimes you don't have a choice. You might be what they call voluntold. And in that case, maybe you give a little bit of expectations at the start. Here's my calendar, here's my timeline, here's my capabilities. And maybe from that conversation, you can bring in some other experts or you could bring in some other resources to help you. That direct but fair conversation at the top. As far as burnout, that's a huge topic, right? Wearing yourself out, working too long, working too hard. And then really, what are you providing? Who's going to see it? What's going to be digested? Maybe you're working too much and too long for the attention span that's not really going to benefit from having it, whatever the deliverable might be. Can it be done in a 2-page report versus 20? Can it be done in a 2-minute quick call versus an hour session? So knowing your limits, your boundaries, where your resources are, and then really course correcting as you go. You have a plan when you start. It's okay that it changes. It should as you learn more. So just being thoughtful and being aware of those different tools and parameters and taking the cues as you go.
And making sure that you also limit yourself to what you know, what you have found out, what you have determined to be important for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And taking your vacations or your holidays, right? There are a lot of people that are, you always have your work with you, which is a blessing and a curse. But you really need to take that time to unplug and recharge and really reflect on what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is this what I'm still interested in? And I've gone on a lot of vacations where I'll see something or talk with someone and I thought, oh, I haven't thought of that, or I hadn't seen that, or oh, that's a really great idea. So you can still become creative and productive in your working life when you're not thinking about work because your mindset changes. And I do a lot of workshops where we do creative projects with our hands because these executives don't really have that creativity option. They're going from meeting to call. And I have a workshop where we actually repair broken pottery. And it's a Japanese Kintsugi, and really, you've heard of it. Okay. And the workshop is how do you resolve an issue or a problem or a challenge? And you do so by learning how to address the problem differently. And there was a workshop that I did locally, and for 5 minutes, the room was silent. There wasn't a single word. They were so involved and their mindset totally changed. And then after that, we had this really impactful conversation because they were now in a different frame of mind. And that one gentleman even said, I really needed that. And I didn't realize I did. So there are different things that you can engage with or different approaches to challenges or situations to not have that burnout or not feel like you're always at the end of the day and what's it for and what did I accomplish and what do I want to do next? So maybe just having different outlets or different folks in your network. I've hit this block. What do you recommend? Or maybe you've seen that. And that's really what I'm trying to get across in the book is there's different ways of trying everything. Not everything's going to work exactly the same for everybody, but here's what's worked for me. Give it a shot, make it your own. But maybe you haven't thought of it from that angle or that perspective.
Yeah. And then, yeah, really, as you said, it's not everyone is the same and
Yeah.
we all can. And the other thing that I also always emphasize is I can experiment. I can try things out and then I can figure out, is it better, worse? Do I want to continue like that? But I can have different options and try them. So we talked a lot about my own career. So how can I further my own career? But then as a leader, I also want to further or strengthen my associates, my employees to have a career. So what can I do as a leader to help them and support my employees in their career? And what are the myths and misjudgments that you're seeing there?
A lot of myths I see from the employee side is it's up to my manager to further my career. It's up to my manager to get me my next role, to understand what I need. And there should be components of that. But really, it needs to be intentional from your side. Where would you like to go? And give them that feedback so they can help guide you. They can look for opportunities or they can look for different tasks or assignments that will suit your strengths and can put wind at your back. So it's really a collaboration. We need to have dialogue. And sometimes it's too much, it's too frequent. I haven't made grand strides in the last 3 days. Can we talk once every other week or whatever the case might be? So I think a lot of times in my experience, leaders are either too involved or not enough. It's really hard to find that balance. And I think it's up to the employee to help guide them I need a little bit more, I need a little bit less, or could I help you with your schedule? I've noticed you're super busy for this particular 2 weeks. I'm good right now. Let's talk later. Here's the few things I want to talk about. So really setting those, again, to those expectations. Or what I have found has been really helpful is just take a running list. Like if it's not urgent, I don't need to interrupt my manager or my team if they're working on something and it's not urgent. So I take a little running list. And then when we meet, here's the items to refresh my memory. I always say I don't have an excellent memory. I'm very organized. So you can't really replace your weaknesses, but you can strengthen them through your strengths. That sounds a little funny, but that's what you're doing. Bolstering them through your strengths. And so looking for ways that you can reevaluate what's important right now, what's urgent. There's a difference, urgent versus important. And when's the appropriate time that we can have this discussion? And then some folks just can't be helped. You really can't care about someone's career more than they do. And you have to recognize that. And if you've come to a point where there's really nothing more we can do for one another, maybe I help you find something else, or maybe you consider in the next month trying a new assignment, or you have to be careful. You can't necessarily tell someone to leave, but maybe you have that conversation of, is this the right fit? Are you enjoying it? I've seen a change in your tone or your mood or your quality of work. And it might be something at home, or it might be something in their personal life. You don't want to pry, but maybe just let them know that you're an ally and you want to support them. So there's so many different, you could have a 2-hour, 3-hour podcast on this conversation alone, but the thought that you're even asking that question to me signals that you are a very effective and considerate manager, because some don't. They just say it's my way or the highway, and that's all there is. And maybe that works for you. Maybe it doesn't, but it's good to know right up front what you'll be getting into when you're working with somebody.
Yeah. And it's always, as you said, it's always the highest responsibility is with the individual and not with anyone else.
And I have a lot of conversations with folks. My manager hasn't scheduled my performance review. Yes, your performance review. You need to schedule it, unless they've specifically said they're going to. But a lot of folks just sit back and wait, and the deadline passes and, oh, I didn't get my review, or I didn't have my call, or whatever the case might be. You have to be in charge of your career. You have to be intentional with the way you're engaging with folks. And if you are not, I don't know how you can expect to be successful if you're not involved. It's definitely got to be accountable on your side. You can't wait for an organization either. There's a lot of organizations that say, oh, we have this comprehensive training, watch this video. Okay. I need feedback. I need engagement. I need this. I need that, the other. There is a lot of opportunities to do independent study, if you will, but you're still going to need that communal conversation and networking. So there's a lot of components to that career development. And yes, it is a lot of work. To your point, it takes a while, but it does. You're building, you're learning. You're not going to be right out of the gate completely fantastic. That wouldn't be any fun. You want to learn and grow along the way, and you meet a lot of wonderful folks doing that. It does take time. You have to be patient, but it's a journey. So you have to remember that.
Be patient, but not too patient.
Yes. Yeah. Patient, but ambitious. Yeah.
Okay. Now, from your book, if listeners remember or learn just one principle from Corporate Coach Approach, what should that be?
I would say just that. Be very intentional and realize that it's a journey. You have to be patient, and that you can course correct. It's really nothing that's going to be a prescriptive one size fits all. Everybody is going to have a much different outcome and perspectives. But if you're intentional with your brand and you're consistent, it will occur. You will have successful opportunities as you go forward. And just learn from your successes as well as your failures. Fail fast, reflect, and then move on. Just keep going forward. There's going to be twists and turns, but it will all work out if you just keep trying and learning from everybody around you.
And it doesn't only sound like a recipe for a career, it sounds like a recipe also for a successful life overall.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it is true. And we're spending so much time at work. We always have, we will. And it's the majority of your schedule. So you should find some joy in it as much as you can. But it's really I have wonderful friends because of work. One of my clients actually wrote my letter of recommendation for my graduate program. So you never really know what relationships you're going to build from these conversations, and having that kind of outlook and mindset, yeah, I have bad days. Everybody does. And you have moments where you just like, oh, I just can't today. I just need a moment. That's fine. We're humans. We're not robots. But the long game, the long term mindset is just being patient and growing and developing and just taking your time and learning from it. But yeah, in my opinion, my experience, the healthiest approach. People want to work with you when you have that mindset. When you're constantly upset and worried and stressed and anxious, it's going to be really hard. You want to be attracted to those that you're attracted to, and you want to be a good role model and provide that kind of attitude and approach towards things. And you'll meet a lot of fun people doing that.
And it's a lot healthier for yourself as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then you get these wonderful opportunities where you get to meet new friends, join these podcasts and join interviews and join the dining room conversation, if they will. You never really know what's gonna happen. We had a colleague come by last night to pick up something, and we ended up having a 10-minute conversation turned into an hour. And we had this kind of impromptu workshop, and they just said, I really needed that today, or I hadn't thought about that, and vice versa. So if you have that open mindset and willing to just have a minute to exchange conversations, it's really can be very insightful.
Well, thank you. I could go on with you forever.
Awesome.
There is so much wisdom in you and so much insight. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. My last question to you really is, what is your vision?
My vision, that's a big question, a big answer. I would just really appreciate and enjoy everybody reading this book and getting something from it where it just clicks. They have a minute where they thought, I really needed that, or I really enjoyed that, or that puts this into more sense or more perspective than I had before. So the vision would be that everybody learns something from the book and they can apply it right away and grow in their career, as I have from the experiences shared. So that would be really the overarching hope and goal, is to help everybody, regardless where they're at, read it, find it interesting, send me a note, a ping, a follow, and I would love to hear how it's supported you or what you've learned from it that maybe I can learn from in return. It's definitely a dialogue.
Wow. So let's repeat that title again, Corporate Coach Approach. And where can people find you other than by reading your book?
On Amazon. And also I have a webpage at twohorseproductions.com, of course. And then also on Instagram, Facebook, and just from the website, all the links are there for you. So we've made it as easy as possible for you to click and go.
Wonderful. Yeah. And of course, I will put the links in the show notes as well.
Oh, thank you. Very kind. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you for all your insights and your wonderful ideas about corporate careers. And it was wonderful talking to you. And I know our listeners have taken away quite a bit from this. And remains to say a big thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's very kind of you to have me here today. Sehr schön, Sie kennenzulernen.
Yeah, danke. Ebenfalls.
Yeah. But I hope to see you again. And if there's an opportunity, I'd love to be a guest and continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
This was Lead Well. Now, what is the one thing that you're taking away from this episode? Please share in the comments below and do share the podcast with your friends and family, but only if you like it.